So we're just over a week removed from the controversial main event of UFC 321 in Abu Dhabi. Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane. The highly anticipated match ended in a first round no contest due to an unintentional eye poke from Cyril Gane. We all know about the fight. We all know about the fallout from the fight and the scrutiny that Tom's received. And despite a video from Andy Aspinall a few days ago, we're yet to know anything really concrete about the condition of Tom Aspinall's eye. Now, in my previous video, I posed the question that there's a chance that Tom retires. Now, I'm basing this on the video that Andy released and also in the video prior that Tom released on the night of the fight. His editor mentioned that, if it's something serious, they may be done with the sport. I was just posing a question, I had a guy in the comments that didn't seem too happy about that. I understand that maybe that he thought the title was kind of clickbaity, fair enough. But I was trying to ask a question at the same time, as getting some attention for myself and the channel, because I want to get this discussion going. I want to get people talking. I want to create a community here. Now, the point of this video is I wanted to discuss where Tom Aspinall goes from here in terms of the rematch. Now, I think he could be in trouble in the rematch because Cyril looked fantastic. Now, yeah, he must have fouled Tom 3 or 4 times within the first round with eye pokes. Some of them didn't land, some of them almost landed, some of them landed very clean in both eyes. Despite the eye pokes, Cyril was putting up a great fight. He came out, he popped Tom with that cross straight away when Tom came firing in. Because Tom, he has this bouncy style, and then he blitzes in super fast. Heavyweights can't keep up with that speed. Gane backed off, bang. Obviously, Gane's a southpaw, so he backs off, bang with the left hand, hits him. And it was clean. It was super clean. It got Tom's nose bloody straight away. That was one of the first strikes of the fight. Instantly put Tom on notice. And Cyril was doing a great job of circling away from the power side of Tom, which was also really effective. Cyril has that great it's kind of like a karate stance, but it's not karate. It's more straight up, it's less wide. But he's very sideways and he bounces from side to side and then he hits you with that calf kick, hits you with the jab. His front side is where a lot of his attacks come from. And then he uses his backside for the power things, the things like the stabbing kick and obviously the left hand. Now, nobody's going to sit here and tell you that this fight was proof that Cyril's going to win, or I wouldn't tell you that. I'm just posing the question from my experiences as a southpaw, as a kickboxer. I can tell you that guys that are incredible kickboxers, at my gym, we've got some really, really high level kickboxers. We've got, European champions, and we've got, guys who've won area titles, multiple titles in the gym, really high level guys. When they fight a southpaw, it obviously ruins everything they've learned because every single combination, every single sparring partner they've had besides a couple are all orthodox fighters. Now, to not mention this in detail would be an injustice because it is so important. Now, I want to just talk a little bit about the dynamic of this and how Cyril is really great at using the southpaw abilities. So Cyril, as I said, mainly fights with his lead side. So he stands very sideways. He has his shoulder there. And he has his front leg. He uses the front leg with the teep kick, and he uses the jab. Now this stops orthodox fighters from being able to get to this point of the chin, because the hand is here, the hand's there to block the power shots, and you're keeping the fight very long, which is a great thing, because what it does is it puts the person who's an orthodox in a position where they either have to bypass the front side to get to the back side, but then the southpaw, Cyril Gane, has got his left hand waiting to release it as you come in. So it's actually a really tough choice to make for orthodox fighters. I know from my experience, some really good kickboxers, and just because I'm southpaw, it completely throws them off. It really throws off all the combinations. They don't quite know what to do. The shots that they get hit with are shots that they'd usually block. You know, they're expecting a backhand, and this time it's the lead hook. There's no way that you can prepare for that unless you spar in southpaws 24/7. And Ante Delija is not a southpaw. You know, one of Tom's main training partners, Rico Verhoeven, he does fight in southpaw, but he's not a southpaw, I'm pretty sure. You know, all the guys that he fights tend to not be southpaws. So, you know, that is something to take into consideration for Tom's next camp. If I was in Tom's next camp, I would be saying, right, who can we find that's a southpaw and a big guy? There's not a whole lot of them. However, in Glory, there is a couple. There's a couple of southpaw kickboxers at heavyweight. That's who I would probably be inquiring for, just simply to work on the kickboxing. Look, we know that if Tom takes Cyril Gane down, Cyril's going to be in trouble. You know, obviously Cyril's been working on his grappling, been working with Olympic wrestlers. I think I saw him wrestling with Sadyulayev. I could be wrong. Maybe it wasn't him, but it looked like him. He's clearly improved, but Tom's been grappling for 20 years. You would think that the gap is just too big, and you know, you can't make up a 20-year gap in a year. It's impossible unless Tom isn't, you know, miles better like we thought he is. It's still yet to be seen. You know, the first takedown attempt was kind of stuffed with a half eye poke from Cyril, but it also wasn't like a full commitment from Tom. It felt like he just kind of wanted to get his hands on him, and kind of reminded me of in the Curtis Blades fight. Like he just kind of ran at Curtis and like grabbed him, and it felt like he just wanted to release some of that nervous energy, get his hands on the guy, feel what it felt like, and then he can kind of calm down a little bit. Now, I'm not sure where we go from here, really, because Cyril is going to fight the same. Cyril fights the same in every single fight, and his style is his style. It's very unique. Especially for a heavyweight, you know, for a guy of his size, he has an unusual style, you know, he's not very ploddy, and it was causing problems for Tom, you know, like, this is the thing, Tom was doing some weird stuff. Andy said in the video that they posted a couple of days after the fight, it was mainly an update about Tom's eye, but he did mention that the game plan was to go out there, to feel Cyril out for the first round, and they were expecting a 5-round war. Now, that doesn't surprise me, but to hear that kind of did surprise me, because Tom was trying things out in there that didn't quite make sense. And look, I'm not sitting here telling you that I'm a better coach than Andy Aspinall, or that I'm a better coach than Stipe Dervis, his boxing coach, or, you know, that I know more than Rico Verhoeven. Obviously I don't, you know, I know nothing. But I didn't think it was the time to be trying spinning kicks out. You know, one of my friends mentioned to me in Fight Week, he was like, "Did you see Tom's been training kicks?" And I was like, "Nah, I didn't actually." And when I heard that, I thought, okay, he's probably looking for a head kick or something, and I'm not quite sure why. But he came out and he threw like 2 head kicks. He threw that spinning kick to the closed side of Cyril, the front side, which I didn't understand at all, because the chances that that's going to land right on the liver and knock him out, because, you know, Cyril fights with his hands low, so their elbows covering the liver. It's not like if you were in orthodox where the backhand is there and the gap's there. It's like Cyril keeps his hands low and it's covered entirely. So Tom was spinning and hitting this side. I didn't get that. And, you know, he spun again, and then he kind of gave up on the kick, and Cyril timed it with an overhand which didn't land, and Tom like smiled and they dapped each other up. I was just like, what is going on? Like, why does Tom look so weird? He looked ploddier. He wasn't bouncing as much. Something wasn't right in this fight. Like, it feels like something wasn't right. You know, Tom, I watched, you know, all of Tom's videos in training camp, and he looked absolutely jacked. Looked shredded as hell. He just stepped on the scale. He looked kind of chubby. It was like, what was that about? You know, he said he was 250 something, and he came on the scale and he was like 262.
Fuck you, mate.
Sorry.
Fuck you.
So that in itself was confusing. He looked ploddier. He looked shocked by Cyril. He did, and I'm a massive Tom Aspinall fan. I wanted him to go out there and take Cyril's head off. I like Cyril as well, he's a cool guy. But obviously I'm English and I love Tom, and with the whole John scenario, I wanted to see him be vindicated of, that talk ever happening again. Now we're at a stage where I'm sat here making a video about, will Tom actually win the next fight? Before the fight, me and my friends were convinced that Tom was going to steamroll everybody ever. He was going to take Cyril's head off in a minute. And that was it. Probably was it optimistic thinking? Yeah, but we had seen it done. We'd seen Jon Jones absolutely demolish Cyril. So it's not like we were basing this on nothing. As well as this, we'd also seen Tom punch everybody's head off that he'd fought. Most of his fights didn't even make it past 1 minute and 30 seconds. His last fight lasted just over 1 minute. Sergey lasted just over 1 minute. Tybura lasted just over 1 minute. It's crazy. And so we all had this idea that he was going to go in there and take his head off, or I did, or I hoped. And instantly, once he came out, me and my friends were like, whoa, this it was making me nervous because he was fighting weird. He looked uncomfortable, nervous. It almost looked like he kind of wasn't expecting Cyril to fight all the time in southpaw, even though Cyril is a southpaw, as far as I'm aware. I don't know what it was, but obviously none of us know, and we'll probably never know until there's a rematch. And, if we come out and there's a rematch, Tom takes him down, subs him in a minute, we look back and we go, fair enough, it wasn't his best night. If Tom goes out there and punches Cyril's head off and flattens him in, a round or whatever, we look back and, once again, we say this just wasn't his best night, but he's still the GOAT, of heavyweight.
What?
But now, as of right now, I don't know what really to think. I'm kind of in a pickle because I love Tom and I'll support Tom and I'll back him for sure. The eye poke, the people talking shit on the eye poke were crazy, man. It were a disgraceful eye poke. His team are notorious for it, as unintentional as it was. They're notorious for it. They do it all the time. Nasruddin Imavov does it as well. And we need to kind of see some justice regarding this eye poke stuff. Even on the weekend, Ante Delija fought Waldo Cortez Acosta. And he poked him in the middle of a flurry. And the fight got stopped. And then the fight got put back on. And within a couple of seconds, Waldo Cortez Acosta flatlines Ante Delija, who obviously trains with Tom Aspinall, which is crazy. It really is like art imitates life kind of thing. The fact that Tom Aspinall's friend poked someone, the fight carried on and he got flattened straight away. It was like, wow, you really couldn't write that. And to be fair to Waldo Cortez Acosta, he actually really put his name up there. He's been talking shit to Tom. It was perfect timing for him. It was the best case scenario because he got poked. The poke is still fresh in everyone's mind regarding Tom Aspinall. And he got the win, and he got a brutal knockout over Tom Aspinall's training partner. It's perfect for him. Interesting match. There were a time, if you'd have asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said Tom punches Waldo Cortez Acosta's head in about 30 seconds. As of right now, you'd still think Tom does it, but the aura around Tom has diminished. We can't sit and lie about that. I love Tom. He didn't deserve all the shit he were getting from John and all the shit he's been getting right now regarding his eye. It really is a shame. The guy seems to be cursed, he really does. He had the knee injury in his big moment against Curtis Blades, came back a year later, beat Tybura, beat Pavlovich, beat Blades, and then waiting for this Jon Jones fight. It never comes. Finally, he gets a fight. He's fighting Cyril Gane. Everyone's insanely buzzing. We're in Abu Dhabi. The UK fans are awake because it was on at a nice time for once. And what we get is the biggest disappointment of the year. The guy's cursed, man. I feel bad for him. So what is the best case for Tom Aspinall in the rematch? Now, obviously, we all want to see Tom go out there and starch Cyril Gane, unless you love an upset. I like Cyril as well, so if he wins, all the best to him. But what's the best case for Tom Aspinall? Now, if I was in his corner, I would be suggesting some strikes that are obviously great against southpaws. Instead of looking for that 1-2, you can forget about the 1-2 because it doesn't quite have the same effect unless you set it up well, not like Tom does against orthodox fighters, where he does the bap, slip to the side, bang, kind of thing. That's not really quite going to work. You're going to have to change the angle. Now, what I would say is, firstly, inside low kicks. We saw Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev just slamming them low kicks shin to shin. I mean, nobody wants to feel that, That is going to put Cyril off. Obviously, the cross is a fantastic shot. The cross to the body, working the open side body kicks with his rear leg. These are all ideas that may work. Another one is, obviously, Cyril backs away like this, like a southpaw does, hand up, shoulder, chin tucked. Now, the way to get through that, obviously, the hooks either side are not really dangerous. What you need to do is come through the middle. And we saw against Tai Tuivasa that when Cyril gets caught in like an exchange, he backs away, the chin up in the air, and Tai, instead of looping, hit him with a punch straight up, right on the chin, dropped him. That's the way to get Cyril, getting to back up with these hooking shots, and then clip him, ideally get him back up to the fence so he can't quite move away. The same way he backs up, he gets stuck on the fence, bang, through the middle. Or, obviously, we need to see this grappling that Tom's so famous for. Like, we didn't get to see much of it. Obviously, he got poked, shooting a takedown, and we want to see how good this is. Maybe that's just the key to victory. Maybe Tom should come out there with the only intention of getting the win. Take him down, destroy him, throw some elbows, try and get him out of there, try and get a choke in. Maybe that's the best case scenario for Tom. I want to see Tom win. I do. That's no secret. I'm a massive Tom Aspinall fan. I still am, obviously. But it's been tough, This year's been a great year for mixed martial arts. My boy Volkanovski, who I've been with through thick and thin, finally got the belt back. Alex Pereira finally got the belt back. Yuri having a great year. These things are awesome. I'm super happy, but it's come at the expense of Tom Aspinall being cursed by the devil himself. Now, what he has to do to get his aura back up is to go in there and starch Cyril fast. That will be the only way that people will be like, yeah, he's as good as he said he is, and he's not lying about the eye. If he goes in there, he has a 5-round war with Cyril, and, it's a close fight, but Tom wins. Basically, if just Tom doesn't finish Cyril, I feel like the majority of the casual MMA fan base will kind of write Tom off and say, oh, John would have done whatever he wants. Styles make fights. Tom beat the fuck out of Volkov in a round. Cyril 2 times has gone life and death with Volkov in fights, full distance. Not wars, not interesting fights, got dropped by Volkov in the last fight. So you can't really compare fighters each time, but people do, and John will be talking shit forever, so we need to see a conclusion to this. I'm desperate to see Tom go out there and destroy Cyril Gane in the rematch, whenever that is. I would imagine probably January or February. Get it booked as soon as possible. It's the best thing for everyone, but Tom's got some things to work on. Just to recap, he really needs to work on that southpaw, fighting a southpaw, the angles that he needs. I'm surprised at how unprepared he looked to fight a southpaw. It kind of confused me, and I think a lot of people are confused by it. But yeah, guys, that's the video. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe. There's a lot more content coming on this channel.